Has to do with perhaps the greatest basketball player of all times by most people's account. He certainly is. Michael Jordan and NASCAR settling a federal antitrust lawsuit that accused the racing league of being a, quote, monopolistic bully earlier today. The dispute lasting for over a year, but today NASCAR agreed to make the charters permanent for Cup Series teams. Antitrust attorney Bobby Samini here with us. First things first, did you expect them to settle in this case?
Well, the settlement definitely came at the right time, and I don't think it was a surprise. I think this was the right move for NASCAR. They had a lot to lose and a lot at stake.
You know, ultimately, when we track a story like this, we look ahead. We in the media, we look ahead to the plannings, the procedures. We were expecting closing arguments to happen on Monday. Both sides seemed pretty dug in from what we saw. What do you think led to the decision to settle, if you can expand on that?
Sure. So the risk was great. If NASCAR had lost this case, they'd be looking at suits from all the other teams. The other teams would point to the fact that the courts already determined that these agreements are invalid, that they violate the antitrust suits. And so it had the potential to completely turn NASCAR upside down, and essentially would have opened the door for all sorts of antitrust violation remedies, like selling portions of NASCAR or requiring divestiture from the ownership. It was a lot to risk.
All right, with the headline like Michael Jordan versus NASCAR, this garnered a lot of attention. A lot of people want to know who came out on top. Did you see MJ or NASCAR in the winner's circle? How does it feel?
I think they all won. The team owners now have stability. Their team values will certainly increase over time. I think you'll see it track more like other franchises like NBA and NFL. They've got something that is stable and has a value. And I think NASCAR won as well because you want to have this type of stable ownership, and you want to have owners that are willing to invest and grow these teams. I think the big winners will be the fans because you're going to see more engagement from the ownership, and you're going to see better racing in NASCAR.
You know, the financial terms of the settlement were not disclosed, but there had been reports of more than $300 million in damages. What's your take on the settlement? Do you think it did reach that 300 mil mark?
Well, I think there's definitely a component of financial damages that will result in the settlement. We probably won't find out what those are. The risk could have been much greater because the court would have had the power to issue treble damages and essentially, multiply the underlying number. The good thing I think for NASCAR is they can control the way that payout's going to occur. They can tie that to future events, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a check written today for a large amount.
So the two sides got the deal done. Michael Jordan's team will continue to compete in NASCAR. What could have happened if they didn't settle today? What outcomes, what's the spectrum of possibilities we could have seen?
So you would have seen in the event that NASCAR lost, you would have seen certainly a large number by way of money damages. I think Jordan's expert testified that the damages were in excess of 200 million. The court then could have multiplied that. You could have been looking at $1 billion potentially in damages. And that would have been just for these plaintiffs in this case. Then that would have opened the door for all the other team owners to file their suits and point to the rulings here. In those cases, you'd just be talking about damages because the determination would have already been made that the agreements were invalid.
So lately, antitrust, the word antitrust, the word monopoly, it's been in the news a lot. The DOJ has been focusing on a few select, pretty large tech companies as of late. What do you make of monopolies, antitrust, that type of language making its way into the cultural zeitgeist?
Well, this was around some years ago with the telephone companies way back when, and that's when the government got in and broke up all the big telephone companies. So we've seen this, but not as much in the recent past. Now I think the focus is going to be on the tech companies, and that's where the government is going. It's not as common to see it in civil suits like we have here. So this has kind of been a really interesting journey to track this case.
All right. Bobby Samini is an antitrust attorney. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.